ORDA Webinar 101 Series, the National Wetlands Inventory and NRDA Support, organized by Samantha L. Foster and recorded by her via Microsoft Teams on April 4th, 2025 at 17:02 UTC. Official seal for the Department of the Interior, March 3rd, 1849. The findings and conclusions of this webinar are those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the views of ORDA's NRDAR program, including the trustee bureaus or the United States. Although some of the presenters may be employees of government agencies, the ideas described herein do not necessarily reflect the policies of these agencies, and no official endorsement should be inferred on NRDAR.
Okay, so thank you again for joining today's ORDA webinar on the National Wetlands Inventory. My name is Samantha Foster with the Office of Restoration and Damage Assessment. Today we have Nick Jones and Jonathan Finney. So Nick, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. I will stop sharing and you can go ahead and put up your PowerPoint now.
All right, thanks, Samantha. Let me know if this is working too.
USFWS, National Wetlands Inventory NWI refreshed and expanding. The authors are Jonathan Finney, PhD, Branch Chief Geospatial Mapping and Technical Services, NWI, FWS, and Nicholas Jones, NWI Field Operations Lead, FWS, U.S. Fish and Wildlife HQ, www.fws.gov/wetlands.
Perfect, we can see it.
Okay, not my notes, right?
Nope, not your notes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Samantha. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to thank you all for your time. My name is Nick Jones. I'm here with my branch chief, Jonathan Finney. We're part of the National Wetlands Inventory Program. I'm the field operations project lead, which means I oversee the continental United States regional wetland coordinators and the coordination activities and mapping that we do in CONUS. So I just want to spend a little bit of time today talking about our program, its mandate, and some of the progress we've made providing updated modern NWI mapping for the nation and in support of NRDA specifically.
A map of the U.S. showing where the NWI's regional wetlands coordinators are located. Nick Jones is the field operations lead located in the Pacific region. The following are regional wetlands coordinators in their assigned regions in the U.S. Megan Lamoth is in the Prairie, Nina Hill is in the Midwest, Amanda Pachomsky is in the Northeast, Amelia Burtnick is in the Southeast, Gary Hunt is in the Southwest, Sydney Thilke is in Alaska, Lauren Healy is in the Pacific Southwest. All the listed NWI staff's email addresses in this video are their first name _ last name at fws.gov.
So our program is comprised of 14 staff. We're part of Ecological Services with Fish and Wildlife Service, which is primarily centered in Falls Church, Virginia, and headquarters. But we do have a data center in Madison, Wisconsin, where several of us are also housed. And we do have some of our coordinators distributed around the country, working out of different regional offices. But in total, we have 8 service regions that are each overseen by a dedicated wetland coordinator. We have our data center team and headquarters leadership. Wetland coordinators on the map that you can see specialize in data quality control, training, field operations support, funding and coordination with partnering agencies and organizations.
The employees who work in the Madison, Wisconsin NWI Data Center are Rusty Griffin, Standard Steward / Quality Assurance Lead, Jane Harner, Wetlands Database Administrator, Jeff Ingebrigtsen, GIS Specialist, Max Jackson Boyd, System Administrator.
And our headquarters and data center staff. Headquarters specializes in program administration, scientific integrity, and innovation. In particular, our chief scientist, Megan Lang, is responsible for the decadal status and trends report. Jonathan Finney oversees the program, coordinates with the headquarters staff, funding and other sorts of issues. Our data center staff specialize in data quality assurance, data management, distribution, and analysis of our data. So our operating mandate primarily comes from the Emergency Wetlands Resources Act of 1986. They require the Department of Interior to map the location and types of wetlands across the United States. Under OMB Circular A16, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is required to support the production of and maintenance of the National Wetlands Data Layer as part of the National Data Infrastructure at a specific scale of 0.5 acres target mapping unit for the continental United States and a 5-acre target mapping unit for Alaska. The Federal Geographic Data Committee and the FGDC oversees the National Geospatial Data Asset. All NWI mapping projects that receive federal money must comply with FGDC committee standards. This standard defines the spatial and feature accuracy requirements of the data set, as well as establishes the classification system and its minimum attribute accuracy requirements. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has established further technical procedures for conducting photo interpretation of wetlands for new mapping and updates to existing mapping in our data collection. For example, what features to retain, under what circumstances, techniques, required data formats, training, and field reconnaissance requirements. All of our field work component to our data collection must comply with all federal rules and statutes, such as Section 7, NEPA, other things like that.
Reports that date back to the 1950s are available in the online database.
As part of our other component of our mission, we are directed to do the decadal status and trends report that we provide to Congress. The status and trends report looks at the trends and extent of wetlands and deep water habitats within the coterminous United States, Alaska, Hawaii, and its territories, and their change over time. Our status and trends reports serve as a yardstick used to quantify policy outcomes and support wetland decision-making. Status and trends also includes regional reports, including the Coastal Wetlands Report and the Prairie Potholes Report. And we just released our most recent report back in 2024. It's available for download for 2009 through 2019. And the Coastal Report and the Prairie Potholes Report are still ongoing and in progress.
A color-coded map of the U.S. showing the National Wetlands Inventory and identifies wetland type, size, and location, not condition. The wetlands mapping status is dated May 2014. The map shows dark green patches, mostly along the eastern and Gulf coasts of the U.S., including almost the whole state of Florida and a large swath in the northern halves of Minnesota and Wisconsin.
So just a brief background. The National Wetlands Data Set is not a jurisdictional wetland map as the Corps of Engineers would define it, but it is defined as lands transitional between terrestrial and aquatic systems where the water table is usually at or near the surface for land that is covered by shallow water. This classification must have one or more of the following attributes. At least periodically, the land supports predominantly hydrophytes. The substrate is predominantly undrained hydric soil, and the substrate is non-soil and is saturated with water or covered by shallow water at some time during the growing season of the year. The service's objectives for mapping wetlands and deep water habitats is to produce a reconnaissance level data set on the location, type, and size of these resources using a biological definition of wetlands. So it's not regulatory, like I said, and it is not meant for parcel level determinations. Part of what we've been able to accomplish through the 50 years of our existence, we do have over 37 million polygons within our data set. Over that span, we've spent about $220 million to update and maintain the data set. 100% of the lower 48 is completely mapped, and 63% of Alaska is now currently available or will be available as of our May update. Some of the ways our data set is used for habitat species assessment to support endangered species, waterfowl, and other population models, Ducks Unlimited, Fish and Wildlife Services Migratory Birds Program, infrastructure projects such as roads, pipelines, renewable energy by state and federal agencies in the private sector. It forms the baseline data for NEPA documents, land purchase and development by property owners and realtors, This composes about 70% of our calls that we get. An enhancement of recreational opportunities, for example, hunting, fishing, and bird watching.
An interactive map of the U.S. showing locations of wetlands called Wetlands Mapper from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Department of the Interior. This is available at www.fws.gov/wetlands/data/mapper.html and can be viewed on desktop, tablet, and smartphone.
Excuse me. The primary way people interact with our data set is through our Wetlands Mapper, which is available on our website. It's a user-friendly way to access and interact with the data, allowing you to do queries, extract subsets of data, print maps, et cetera. And you can also query individual polygons to find the age of the data, download metadata map reports attached to it. Many users also make extensive use of our data in GIS software through our mapping service. In 2024, NWI map services alone received nearly 445 million requests for information. So there's a lot of different ways to interact with our data.
A color-coded map of the U.S. showing Wetlands Mapper usage statistics in fiscal year 2024. The map shows high concentrations of usage from urban areas.
Some of the usage statistics for our Wetlands Mapper, in 2024, we had more than 306,000 users, nearly 550,000 map reviews, 5 million requests for information, 286,000 downloads, and over 290,000 paper maps printed directly from the mapper. Since it was initiated in 2015, over 2.3 million maps have been printed from the Wetlands Mapper.
A U.S. color-coded wetland map of CONUS completed in 2014, showing the age of the data from all map locations, ranging from the 2010s to the 1970s. The average age of wetland data is from 1989. The interactive map includes scalable data.
So our data does have a little bit of a spread in terms of its age. As you can see from this graphic, we do have data that goes all the way back to the 70s. We're trying to update those as we can. Mapping funds, after the mapper was completed for the continental United States, it's relied mostly on external funding from other agencies and other interested parties. But we do have a target refresh rate of about 50 to 100 million acres per year. In recent years, that trend has been closer to 100 million acres or more. Just in our May update alone, I think we had 70 million acres this year. So,
a U.S. color-coded wetland map showing active projects. Most are located in the central western region of the map.
As you can see, we have active projects between Alaska and its territory, or in our territories, and the continental United States, totaling 333 million acres, 195 million alone in the continental United States.
2 color-coded maps of Alaska showing NWI mapping status per area.
The Alaska map is something that we're still trying to finish. It has been a priority since we finished the CONUS map for the nation, funded primarily through a variety of partnerships with agencies and organizations such as National Park Service, Army Corps of Engineers, BLM, USGS, NIFWF, et cetera. We do have a goal of completing the Alaska map within the next 4 years. We have a lot of active projects ongoing, some of which are initiated, some are not. But as of now, we do have 63% of data for the state available as of our May update in about another month. Excuse me. So as far as NRDA goes, NWI is used as a key source of information for writing an ecological description of a given area, to highlight on a map where injury occurred relative to wetlands, and to identify other regional and local wetland restoration projects.
A color-coded wetland map of the U.S. showing NWI services for DOI and NRDA. Small highlighted areas are scattered fairly evenly over the map.
In 2020, NWI identified priority wetland mapping areas for DOI NRDA based on 200 sites sent to us with ranking criteria based on age and condition of the underlying data, the multiple NRDA sites being present in a location, proximity to DOI property, primarily national parks, national wildlife refuges within the watershed. And I do have a story map I'm happy to link in the chat if people are interested. You can see where that analysis was done and how it works. But there were 8 priority areas totaling 59.1 million acres with a cost estimate of $4.1 million, coincident with 88 NRDA points.
A map of Missouri and Kentucky, and a map of Washington showing fiscal year 22 NWI mapping projects directly supporting NRDA.
As a result of that analysis, two projects were funded in fiscal year 2022, approximately a 2 million acre project of Huck 8 watersheds in the Puget Sound, which that data was completed in 2023 and made available on our mapper. And then another 800,000 acres was finished in 2024 for Missouri and Kentucky.
A map of Buffalo/Western New York showing fiscal year 24 current NRDA NWI mapping. The project mentioned covers most of the map area.
As of right now, we do have one active project specifically to support NRDA in the Western New York Buffalo area, totaling 1.5 million acres. The data is approximately 30% complete at this point in draft state, and it should be completely closed out and available on our mapper by the end of fiscal year 2026.
A color-coded map of the fish and wildlife resource areas of the Central Gulf of Mexico, dated August 9, 2010, showing fisheries and habitat conservation. Data is shown in the categories of beached oil, oil spill information, and resource information, such as coastal wetlands and protected areas.
Here's another example of where we've been able to use NWI to highlight damage to the environment in ways that interacts with wetlands from the Deepwater Horizon spill. This is just a sample map that was produced back in 2010. I realized I really raced through this thing. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. But that is, yeah, that's the extent of what I wanted to show you all. And as I said, I'll find that link to the story map if people are interested in put it in the chat.
Thanks, Nick, for the presentation.
Sure.
If anybody has questions, they go ahead and unmute themselves or drop their questions in the chat. Either one works.
Samantha, this is Jonathan Finney. I apologize for being a little bit late to it. I have one question to this group is how many people use the NWI data? Maybe it's a rough show of hands or something.
No reaction is shown by the audience.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Any specific highlights for May? We do have, like I said, about 70 million acres going into the mapper from projects all across the United States. Most of those acres are from Alaska, probably, I think I have to look at the specific numbers, but I do know it makes up more than half of our current mapping. That is really our primary focus, is to finish that Alaska map. The other updates that we're doing comes from contributed funding from BLM, particularly in the Western United States, the Arid West, but other states are pursuing, wetland mapping projects. And so we're integrating those as the funding becomes available.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. For organizations working on state wetland inventories, would your staff provide input and guidance? Yeah, absolutely. We actually just had a meeting with state of Missouri, who's kicking off a full update for their state. And so, yeah, we're providing training and support. And we do the QC on the data. So, but we do try to tightly integrate our efforts with whatever partnering organization is doing the mapping, including providing training if some agencies and organizations are interested in doing the mapping themselves. Most projects are probably done by cooperator or contractor. We have several people on our BPA or companies on our BPA that have been basically approved to do the mapping, that have lots of experience, so they're pretty efficient for the most part. But yeah, we're happy to talk. What is in the story map? That was the analysis that was done in 2020 to identify priority areas for NRDA. Some of the HUCs that were in that analysis ended up becoming projects. Oh, does it? Oh, it may be. I don't know. If it's not, you're not able to access the story map, let me know. I will see what I can do to open that up.
Hey, Nick, maybe go back. Nick, Jonathan here. Why don't you go back to that the map that has the NRDA sites that we've identified? Yeah,
absolutely.
And then, because I think this would be good feedback for us is, are these reasonable? Are there others that people are looking for wetland data that we're just not aware of?
Yeah, and as I said, if you have trouble getting access to that story map, I will see what I can do to find a way to get it outside of having a federal AGOL account or something like that. So. Couple of questions. Saad?
Yes.
Sorry. Hopefully I said your name correctly.
You were spot on. Thank you. Thank you for the brief presentation. I have a quick question. So the NWI layer that's available on the Esri Living Atlas, how frequently do you guys update it? And is there a way to know, because it's a big area that you guys have to manage in terms of features and stuff. So do you guys release any kind of notes that, hey, this region had, we recently updated the wetland polygon boundaries of this region and stuff like that?
Yeah, so as far as Esri goes, pulling our data in, I believe, and I need to double check on this. I'd have to check their data center manager. When we update our maps, we have biannual updates. So every spring and every fall, so May and September, we push, or more like October, I guess, we push out an update of all the maps that we've ingested. I believe Esri then scrapes our map service and our data to pull that data over. But we do have our own map service, but if it is publicly available, if you don't just use Esri, but yeah, it's available on AGOL if you're looking at it through a GIS. I hope I answered your full question.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. No problem. I saw another hand up. I guess maybe not.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick and Jonathan, for all the work you guys have done on this. Really appreciate you sharing it with the rest of us today. If there are no more questions, we will go ahead and end the meeting. Todd, did you have a final question?
Yes, sorry. I have a technical question. So let's say you're using a model to predict wetlands.
Mhm.
And then because of the nature of the soil and it has some moisture content and you can see some water meandering patterns, but it's not really a wetland. Let's say it has been changed into some other land cover class. Would you exclude that, include that, or would you mark that as something that needs to be restored?
Well, it depends. I mean, when we're doing mapping, our mapping standard is still tied to a photo interpretation imagery standard. So that is the base layer, but underneath that we incorporate high resolution LiDAR data, soils data. So it's the assessment that the photo interpreter is doing is taking all these pieces of information into account. Whether it's depth to water table, whatever it is that we're trying to suss out with mapping features. I guess I would need to see a specific example of what you're talking about to say whether something would be in or out. But yeah, we do lean most heavily on those three components, which is the hydric soil component, LiDAR data, and imagery. And so if we get evidence of hydrology and we have soils and evidence of hydrophytes, and then field work is also used to augment this, to go out to sites that we're not sure about. Some of these projects are fairly massive in scope, millions of acres at times, but we do try to make sure when we're doing field work with our cooperators that they are able to, I'll answer that in just a second, Julie. Yeah, look at sites that we're not 100% certain about and try to make a determination by soil probe or whatever it is to figure out what, and collecting vegetation samples.
Thank you. So would it be okay to reach out to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Can you put your information in the chat, please? Sorry, one more time.
Yeah, no, I can certainly do that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Julie, you had a question. Are you able to leverage U.S. Army Corps of Engineers wetland determination data or other credible field verified wetland data sets? Corps of Engineers data, usually the scope of it is so small. I mean, if it's available, sure, mappers will use it. Frequently, it's not available in geospatial form. Maybe it'll be in a tabular form, or it'll be in a report. So it's a little bit of a challenge, and the scale is much different, I guess, if that makes sense. It can be helpful if you have it, but it frequently isn't, like I said, usable on scale. So just depends on where this is happening. Like a lot of these updates, are, like I said, covering millions of acres. So you may have a couple of sample sites that you could pull in, but on average, probably doesn't help a ton. Which states, sorry, Margaret, which states have a half-acre size threshold and which have a smaller threshold? The half-acre is the minimum standard. So there are states and agencies that have exceeded that threshold down to like 1/10 of an acre. It sort of depends. The BLM in particular has focused on 1/10 of an acre mapping in the last 10 years or so. So it really just depends on project objectives and funding. So if you have that funding and you're interested in that level of detail, we'll definitely take it. It just depends. So. Oh, Catherine, a bit more about the prioritization assessment. I don't know that I can. It precedes my joining the service. I didn't participate in it. Jonathan, I know you were around. Do you have any background on the prioritization assessment?
Yeah, Catherine, can you maybe be a little more specific on, I mean, Nick went through kind of the basic steps of it. I mean, again, it was looking at, we got points for where the NRDA sites were, and then we extrapolated based on the age of our data and proximity to DOI resources. That's how we did it. And then he came back, and I know the Missouri one was picked, and the ones up in Washington were picked as well. Do you want more? What else would you like to know?
Hey, Jonathan, this is Catherine. I turned my phone off.
Still good. Thank you.
When was that done? I don't remember it.
Yeah,
2020.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
2020?
Yeah. It was published, May 8th of 2020. Like I said, I will work on getting the story map link opened up.
Yeah.
Okay, that will help. Thank you.
It may not have been, I mean, because we gave this overview early on. I'm just not sure if I'm sure we had the map for it as well, but it came through on a slide, right? And yeah, but we're happy to work with you if there are other sites. I mean, as I say, this was our rendition.
Yeah. If you have other priority sites, we're not saying these are the only ones we're looking at. If you have other areas of interest. Yes, correct. Vermont it did quarter acre for their statewide update.
The other one other point that is Nick had mentioned that BLM was a big funder. The other place where we've been focusing in the lower 48 is the Great Lakes. We've gotten a fair amount of money from them to update the data around the Great Lakes watershed through the Great Lakes.
Everything that's pre-2010s is in progress to get updated in the next couple of years. So. Thanks, Julie. Appreciate it. Hopefully I didn't miss any other questions. I'm just scanning through here real quick. Okay. Oh, Saad, please go ahead.
Yes, I have some other one last technical question. So what variables would you recommend when you are what remote sensing variables would you recommend when predicting wetlands? So let's say you have NDVI, hadroscopic soils. What other rasters would you recommend?
Sure. One of the biggest ones is probably the wetland potential index. Derived from LiDAR, using there are a couple of off-the-shelf tools that people have built. Trying to think the name of the researcher at University of Washington, it's escaping me at the moment. So there's a lot of different efforts to use machine learning and automated methods to map features. And so we're always, most of our producers have incorporated some level of automation, whether it's to pull in open water that's more easily mapped in an automated way. The real challenge, though, is features under canopy. Most of our mapping is done using NAPE imagery, which is typically leaf on. If there are states with their own imagery program that have leaf off, that certainly helps the process. But the wetland potential index is probably wetness potential index is probably one of the bigger components.
And that's from LiDAR.
I'm sorry.
That's from LiDAR. You derived that from LiDAR.
LiDAR, yeah, it's derived from LiDAR.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful questions. Nick, Jonathan, appreciate your time today sharing this with us. We'll go ahead and end the meeting if there's no more questions.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.